It's the year 1899. You're making your way down a busy street in New York City, dodging horse-drawn carriages and the occasional pedestrian. Maybe you're on your way to see a show in the newly opened Hippodrome building, or perhaps you're visiting the World's Fair in the new part of the city. Either way, you find yourself in a place where millions have come to seek their fortune, escape the old world, or simply leave their troubles behind. And at the turn of the 20th century, there was one place where they might have been able to do that, this new part of the city. Now, let's be clear, this isn't some quaint little village. Even though it's a brand new neighborhood, there are already thousands of people living here. There are several tenement buildings here, as well as factories, shops, bars, restaurants, and even some homeless shelters. Basically, if you could make it in this part of town, you could make it anywhere. But today, there's something strange going on. As you walk past a shop window, you catch a glimpse of your reflection. You're tired from your long journey, so you keep walking. But then again, you glance back at that reflection. It looks like there's another man standing next to you. And although he seems to be made of flesh and blood, his entire form is shimmering with a strange golden light. His clothes are tattered and his arms seem extraordinarily long. You blink, and when you look back, he's gone. At first, you think it must have been exhaustion playing tricks on your eyes. But then, you hear a child scream out, "Look at the shining man over there," pointing to an alley. With renewed curiosity, you peek around the corner, and for a brief moment, you see him. He seems to glide effortlessly over the cobblestones, never touching the ground. In fact, it seems as if he's floating right in front of you. But before you can get a good look, he vanishes around the corner and you're left alone wondering what you had just seen. This wasn't the only time this happened, not by a long shot. In fact, this exact or very similar scenario was witnessed by dozens of people across New York City between 1887 and 1913. Some saw them, heard them, or even felt their presence. They became known as the Glimmering Men, although other names were used at the time, such as the Shining Men, Phantom Men, and Golden Beings. So what exactly were they? Tall, slender figures with a soft internal glow, usually described as golden or silver. Eyewitnesses claimed that they glided or floated along the streets, never walking and always maintaining an upright position. They appeared to be in good spirits, raising their arms and tipping their heads back as if they were dancing. They would appear out of nowhere and vanish in an instant. Reports started to surface in earnest in 1887. A series of articles in the Brooklyn Daily Eagle detailed various sightings across Brooklyn and Lower Manhattan. According to these reports, the Glimmermen were tall, gaunt, luminous creatures with large heads and delicate limbs. One witness described them as akin to gnomes, while another said they resembled skeletons. Most stories say the Glimmermen were dressed in tattered rags, with their skin glowing like something out of a dream. In 1897, a woman named Mrs. Howard Potter wrote to the editor of the New York Times, claiming to have seen a man on Broadway who was luminous as the moon in the full of night. She further explained, "He seemed to float along without touching the ground. I should judge that he was about 5 feet 8 inches in height. He wore a rusty coat, which came down to his shins and did not appear to be over 30 years of age. His face was pale and drawn, and his features were not regular." Sightings continued into the 20th century, but by 1913, the phenomenon seemed to fade away as quickly as it had appeared. So, what was going on here? Were these really supernatural beings, or could there be a perfectly reasonable explanation? One of the most popular theories at the time was that the Glimmermen were simply reflections from gas lights or the newly installed electric streetlights. Proponents of this theory pointed out that many of the reported sightings occurred near gas lamps or areas with bright illumination. They argued that the bright lights combined with the dark clothing worn by the Glimmermen may have created an optical illusion that tricked the eye. Additionally, the fact that the Glimmermen were often seen during the late hours of the night or early morning, when gas lights were dim and flickering, could have contributed to the illusion. To test this theory, They decided to visit some of the locations mentioned in the old newspaper clippings and take some photos under various lighting conditions. By doing this, they wanted to see if they could recreate the supposed appearance of the Glimmermen and determine whether this could account for the original witnesses' descriptions. Using a camera and some basic equipment, they tried to replicate the atmospheric conditions described in the accounts and capture images that resembled the alleged sightings of the Glimmermen. By experimenting with different lighting setups, they aimed to capture the dimly lit streets that were mentioned in the news articles and observe how these conditions affected the visual appearance of objects and people within the frame. Through this process, they hoped to gain a deeper understanding of the possible origins of the Glimmerman phenomenon and shed light on this intriguing urban legend. Another theory suggests that the Glimmermen were simply figments of the witnesses' imaginations, brought on by the stress and anxiety of city life. Proponents of this view argue that the sightings were part of a mass hysteria epidemic that swept through New York City during the late 19th century. This period was marked by rapid industrialization, urbanization, and social change, which created a climate of fear and uncertainty. Many people were struggling to adapt to the fast-paced, crowded, and unsanitary conditions of the city, and this resulted in a heightened state of anxiety and vulnerability. In this context, the Glimmermen sightings can be seen as manifestations of collective hysteria rather than evidence of paranormal activity. These strange and unsettling figures embodied the anxieties and fears of the time, reflecting a sense of disorientation and unease in the face of rapid modernization. However, there is another intriguing possibility. Could these sightings have been of extra-dimensional beings, possibly ghosts or entities from another plane of reality? If we assume that these beings were real and not hallucinations or tricks of the light, then their ability to shimmer and disappear suggests that they possessed some kind of supernatural or paranormal qualities. This raises questions about the nature of their existence and the possibility that they were not bound by the laws of our physical world. Perhaps they were ghosts or spirits that were able to manifest themselves in our reality, albeit briefly. Alternatively, they could have been interdimensional travelers from a different plane of existence where the laws of physics operate differently. In this scenario, their shimmering effect could have been a byproduct of their passage between dimensions. Unfortunately, there is no concrete evidence to support this theory, and it remains largely speculative. Nevertheless, it offers an intriguing perspective on the Glimmerman sightings and invites us to consider the possibility that there may be more to our universe than what we can see or understand. We can't help but wonder if there might be a connection between the past and the present. Are the Glimmering Men still out there, hidden in plain sight, their luminescence masked by the neon lights and bustling crowds? Or were they a product of their time, a manifestation of the fears and anxieties of a bygone era? Perhaps the true mystery of the Glimmering Men lies not in their supernatural qualities, but in the human imagination. Our tendency to seek out patterns and meaning in the unknown can lead us to interpret ordinary occurrences as paranormal events. In the case of the Glistening Men, however, our desire to believe in something extraordinary can cause us to overlook the power of suggestion and the influence of our own minds. Ultimately, the truth behind the Glimmermen may forever remain elusive. The lack of concrete evidence and the passage of time have left us with more questions than answers. But that does not mean that their story should be forgotten. The Glimmermen serve as a reminder of the enduring human fascination with the unknown and the importance of keeping an open mind in the face of the unexplained. Whether they were real or just a reflection of the fears of a city on the cusp of a new century, the mystery of the Glimmering Men remains. But what do you think? Were they a supernatural force or just a product of the human imagination? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip into the shadows of history, be sure to hit that like button, and if you want to explore more stories like this, subscribe so you don't miss out on what we uncover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next mystery.